turn this down for a second. All right. Week 4. Mike and Rico, we've got a recap going on. We're talking Noles football. We're talking Noles 31, Tigers 24. The Tiger Kings are back in the house. We got the second pelt, Mike. We talked about getting that second pelt, and we've got it. Let me go ahead and turn this off now so we can get into it. Man, what a battle. I don't think there was any point in the game where we were really comfortable. It's kind of one of those things we talked about where to be the man, you got to beat the man. And we finally slayed the dragon there as we adjust the screen here. We finally slayed the dragon. It took a Herculean effort. I've got to give a hats off, although I won't take mine off. I got to give a hats off to the Clemson Tigers and Dabo Swinney. He had those kids really ready to play. Those kids play with a lot of pride. And they've been the standard in ACC for 7 years. They've been the standard. I think I saw a stat that the last 11 of 12 ACC champions, save for Kenny Pickett's 2021 championship, have been Clemson and FSU. And frankly, they've won 6 out of the last 7, I believe it is. So they deserve a lot of credit. They came to play. They really stepped up. I thought we had a better team, and they really made it difficult for us. What are your just overall thoughts on that ball game? 31-24, Noles get the win in overtime.
Yeah, I mean, I felt going into the game, FSU had the talent advantage for the first time, but at the same time, I knew it was going to be tough. I knew they were going to battle. I know what Dabo Swinney's teams do. So they're going to have to go through adversity throughout the game, a lot longer than I expected them to go through adversity throughout the game. But you knew it was going to be a grind, and they just I think they learned a lot from that previous one where they seemed like they barely hung on when they played BC. Where in this game they handled adversity, they made the big plays to change the game. You know, the Kalen DeLoach smack and fumble, scoop and score really just changed everything. But they didn't have those type of plays when they played BC to turn it around. So it's more like they did the plays to put themselves in position. Got fortunate on a chip shot missed field goal, but at the same time, that's what great teams do. When you get an opportunity and they miss, you go in there and you put them away. And that's what they did. And it's just a massive victory. I mean, told you earlier, they haven't lost to an ACC opponent since 2016 in the regular season. So winning in Death Valley is a major thing. And usually when FSU wins in Death Valley, it usually is a good thing for the rest of the year. And I think it tells you a lot about this team and kind of their fight and where they're going. There's a lot to clean up, a lot to fix, but I saw things that are really going to help them going the season. But the main thing is just getting the win. It didn't matter what the score is or how pretty. So I think it's just a massive win for the program, the biggest win that Mike Norvell's had since he's been there, without a doubt.
Yeah, it was definitely one of those gatekeeper games. We talked about that at the beginning of the week. This was a gatekeeper game. I mean, this is a game where if you get it, it opens up everything that you set as far as goals for the original, game plan for the season. I mean, without beating Clemson, you likely don't get to North Carolina to play for an ACC championship game because it goes through Clemson. They've been the standard. But when you get that game, now it opens up everything. Now you're in the driver's seat in ACC. They've got some great games coming up. Syracuse, we've got Virginia Tech first, Syracuse, Duke. Of course, a big one with the Miami. Miami looks a lot better, so that's going to be a big one. But it all starts with this Clemson game. They had to get it. They went out there. It was not pretty. We frankly got outplayed in a lot of different areas. If you look at the stats, they got 9 more first downs than we did. They were more efficient on third down than we were, both 1 for 2 on fourth down. They had us by over 100 yards, total yards, 429 to 311. We did pass for more than they did. They really kind of kicked our butt up front. I was a little disappointed in that, if I'm being honest. I thought we would handle their rush a little better. I thought Shipley was moving forward on a lot of contact. I didn't expect that. I thought that we would be able to bow up and kind of stuff the run because they're coming in there. No Antonio Williams. I mean, they're banged up a little bit. I figured if you shut down Shipley and you really stop that rush, we should be in good shape. We didn't exactly do that. They were able to run for 146. We ran for 22. So a lot of things didn't go the way we wanted it to go. We had more penalties than they had. I think we had 60 yards. They had 50. But what we did not do was turn the ball over. And that's where the game swings, because in rivalry games where things are about even, I think we're a little better, but things are about even because we're on the road and they're a prideful national title winning program. they're going to bow up and play. The swinging play was the Deloach called blitz, delayed. It's not even a strip sack. He just obliterated Klubnik, put his helmet on the ball. Is genius. The ball pops out. Fisk makes a very heady play to kind of bobble the ball back into Deloach's hands, and then just a convoy of Noles down the sideline to tie that ball game at 24. Really, that's the difference. In a game where we were otherwise outplayed, we were outpossessed by almost 9 minutes in regulation. That was really the difference. They have a kicking situation that's on the program. I get on us all the time for Fitzgerald being a little rough last year because that's our kicker. As a program, you put the kicker in place, and this year Fitzgerald spent money, and Mastrano's been kicking the heck out of the ball, and that's on Clemson for not having the kicking situation squared away. So he misses a clutch kick. That's what kickers do sometimes. Oftentimes, most of the time, kickers miss kicks, and so they did. We went to overtime, and the better team prevailed in overtime. Keon Coleman up top of your dome piece, get the Christmas ornaments out of the attic. And then defense makes a great play. Cypress with great coverage on a 4th down call. Dabble's calling silly stuff on 3rd and short, setting up a 4th and short. So in the end, Noles prevail. Kind of ran down where we were deficient. Mike, is there any takeaway that's concerning? Like, we're going to get to the great stuff with the win. Is there anything that's concerning, in your opinion, based on the performance Saturday?
I just think the efficiency of what they do, and I think there's some things they'll have to adjust. Like, they're not doing enough with their slot receivers. I'm not seeing enough with FSU slot receivers. They're not throwing inside. They're throwing mainly to Johnny or downfield, or they're throwing downfield to Keon. They have to start getting a Winston Wright, Destin Hill, somebody. They have to do something with that, and they've got to get this running game cranked up. I know they're missing Robert Scott again for the 3rd game, but they have to get healthy. This bye week's huge for them because they have to get that run game. That's their identity. That's what Mike wants to do. So I think they really got to figure out this run game and what's going to work. And really, that's really the concerning thing for me. If I was picking some things that I felt like could be better, and I I know we were probably not alone. We were talking throughout the game, and really pissed off about what we were seeing, the way the soft coverages they do on defense in the first half, but then they, like I explained to you, I felt kind of better as I watched the second half, not because they played better, but because now I'm kind of understanding what Adam Fuller or Randy Shane or whoever's calling the defense is doing, where they're running a lot of exotic looks to see what they're doing, so see what's going to work, and then the second half they shut it down. So they did the same thing against LSU. It was the same thing. They scored 7 points in the second half in the Clemson game. LSU, they shut them down and blew them out late in that second half. So I think we're seeing a lot of this. That's what Fuller's going to do. So I think the adjustment to that, what you need to clean up is getting on that quicker, maybe in the first quarter, seeing that stuff and then adjusting to it. So it's a quicker adjustment. So you're not like fighting for your lives. But overall, I think Mike Norvell kind of summed it up at the end of the game. He's like, our kids, they grind it, and they stayed the course. They didn't get panicked. They didn't get rattled with what was going on, even when they got down 10-0, and then later down 24-17. They just kept grinding and do what they do, and they just stayed the course until somebody gave them a spark in a big play with the Deloach thing. And then once they got that, it was just a grind back and forth. But overall, I think it's massive for this team to win this way because they're still in the growth process. I think a lot of FSU fans just fall in love with kind of what they have on the roster, but it's still, you got to grow as a team. You can't just jump to the penthouse like right away just because you have the talent. So I think they're learning how to consistently dominate people and consistently beat people. And I think that's where the process is at right now. It's not about now. We used to say like, oh, it's about winning. They got to win these games. They got to beat this certain team. But now it's about just your consistency of when you have a chance to knock somebody out with the talent you have, exploit all your weapons. And I think once they do that, they're going to be scary good. And this is a scary notion for the rest of the country because the rest of their schedule, they have a very favorable schedule as far as they're going to be favored in a lot of these games. So the big challenges that we circle before the year, Clemson, LSU, they've taken care of business. Now it's about learning from that, expanding your depth chart to what players can play, getting more guys on the field, getting more guys you can lean on, and then using that depth. And then two, being consistent in putting your foot on the throat and putting teams away, early in these games. And then I guess the most alarming thing for me, lastly, as I close that out, is they've got to figure out what's going on to start these games. Like they've got to
Yeah.
figure out why they're starting so freaking slow.
Right.
So FSU's got to start. That's a thing I think they do have to fix, regardless who you're playing. They got 3 winnable games, I think. The hardest being Duke in that 3-game stretch, but they have got to figure out how to get these guys clicked in for the first in the first half of the game, because I think if they do that, the second half we've seen this team really takes over in the second half. So I think once that starts happening, I think this team's going to be very scary.
Yeah, I agree with just about all of that. I think if I'm going to talk about the concerns that I've got just in general, I'd start on the offensive side. I've been saying it and referencing it for the last couple of weeks that at some point you're going to have to pull the plastic off of Jordan Travis. And what I mean by that is it's almost like we're trying to preserve what he can do. Obviously, last year he had a special year. He was really one of the best quarterbacks in the entire country, not just ACC. With efficiency and obviously his explosive plays, it jumps out on the film. We're kind of hiding that this year. I mean, at this point now, 4 games in, we can kind of say that we're trying to, I guess, preserve him from getting the contact and from everything else. And I get that. And you have to take care of your quarterback. But I do think that this is holding the offense back in a way because Jordan is Heisman good when the plastic's ripped off and he can go. And there's a lot of plays that we're seeing where it's a 3rd and 7 or it's a 2nd and 10, and there's 8 to 12 yards there for him to go run and grab, and he's trying to make a pass downfield. It's incomplete, now it's setting up a 3rd and long. But it's like, Jordan, I mean, you're a 4-4 guy. Go get that first down. It's almost like we're trying to prove that he can make certain level passes, and we're prioritizing that over moving the sticks. And I think that's really playing into our slow starts. And I get it. He's trying to put stuff on film. I get it. He's going to try to make it to the league and everything else. And God bless him. I hope he does that. But I think for us to win a national championship, which is now the goal, your top 5 team, we have to unleash him. And we've got to protect him, but we also have to unleash him. That's what makes him Heisman level spectacular good is when he's unleashed, because he is literally the most dangerous running quarterback that I know of in college football. And he's a phenomenal athlete. We're not doing that. That's one thing I do have an issue with. I think that's preventing us from really putting teams away. And in that same vein, when you don't put teams away, you have to play deeper into the game. We saw it last week with Boston College. We got sloppy, arrogant, whatever you want to call it, and we're having to expose Jordan to contact in the 4th quarter. Whereas if we would have just unleashed him, got up, spanked that butt, got out of there, then you're looking at Tate Rodemaker playing the entire 4th quarter. Yep. So it's out of a double-edged sword. I want to unleash Travis. I want to unleash him so that he can put up together a Heisman campaign. Overall, his numbers aren't bad. 21 of 37, 289, 2 tutties, no picks, no explosive plays on the ground, -2 yards rushing. That's crazy. Jordan is arguably, the top rushing, or at least one of the top rushing quarterbacks in all of college football. -2 yards rushing. I can't remember, maybe 1 or 2 design run plays, and they were A-B gap. I want him out on the edge, right? I don't want him in there with the elephants. I want him out there on the edge. That's got to get fixed. I think when we get later down the road, we get to the Dukes. Not to disrespect Virginia Tech and Syracuse, but we get to the Dukes, get to the Miamis, the Gator. I mean, we're going to have to unleash them if we want to win. I mean, that's my deal. I didn't see enough explosion from the run game. Matter of fact, I didn't even see competency from the run game. That's concerning because Clemson's a big boy team. We can run the ball no matter who we play. We've done it against the Gators last year at a good front. We've done it against the LSU football Tigers twice. We've done it against Oklahoma. We've run the ball against everybody. Not sure what happened there, but 20 rushes for 22 yards, that's abysmal. That can't happen. We've got to be better than that. And then the thing I'll hit on an offense before I tee off on a couple things defensively I know you agree with. We have 2 great receivers at going up aerially and getting a ball. We cannot just lean on that and toss the ball up in the air to Johnny and to Keon all game long along the sidelines. If you're going to do that, I like Keon in the middle of the field where he doesn't have that additional defender, aka the sideline,
Mm-hmm.
squeezing him. I like him in the middle of the field where he can really time his jump and he can be spatially aware and go up and go get a ball. I think putting him on the sideline is putting him at a disadvantage. And we're doing too much jumping and tossing the ball. The kid's a basketball player at heart. He's a phenomenal athlete, but he's jumping more into the defender and he doesn't really have the room. I'd like to see more posts, more hitting the seam, more things that are in the middle of the field, working those safeties over to get one-on-ones or get a one-on-one with a safety if they're playing some type of zone coverage, and then put a ball up in the air. I think we're doing too much basketball with him, and I think it's getting kind of red defensively. I don't like that. We still have some drop issues. I mean, obviously, Johnny had a pretty good game, 5 for 94. But on that last drive, when we're going down there with a tie ball game to try to go win it, we have a third down. Jordan puts the ball right on him. We get another drop. That's got to stop at some point because I know this kid wants to play in the league. That's the type of thing get you cut in training camp, and he's better than that. And I know he's been working through it, but I just want to see a clean game where Johnny Wilson has no drops and makes those normal, standard, good, solid plays. He had the crazy sideline grab with the fingertips, but then it's like you drop a crucial third down. I want to see that cleaned up, not to put pressure on him. Still had a good game. I want to see that cleaned up a little bit. And then I also want to see a little more creativity with Jaheim Bell. We haven't really seen it since really the second game of the year. I mean, Jaheim has not really been utilized to his full extent, and he's such a dynamic weapon. I was a little dissatisfied with that. Overall, that's what I feel with the receiving. Defensively, third down, man. Third down defense. And I don't want to talk from ivory tower. I was a walk-on there, but I played with a lot of good guys, Tony Carter, Patrick Robinson, Xavier Rhodes, Greg Reed, just to name a few, Chuko Jenajay, all these guys, Jamie Robinson, Myron Rowe. We had a lot of guys in the defensive backfield, but one thing with our corners that we took pride in, particularly our guys who played a lot of snaps, was, damn it, we go one-on-one and we don't need to play freaking 25 yards off. We don't need to play from space, and that's one thing Mickey said. If your ass has to be way back there and you can't be up on a receiver, you can't play at Florida State. And I just don't understand some of the concepts on third down where we're freaking giving away the inside leverage. It makes me want to throw my remote through the freaking screen. Get your ass on the inside hip, take away anything in breaking, and make his ass go on the outside and make that quarterback make an outbound throw on the sideline with precision. Because I don't think Cade Klubnik can do it. And we continually gave away the middle of the field. Third down. It's like 3rd and 7, 3rd and 8, 3rd and 13, 3rd and 14, 3rd and whatever, 3rd and Georgia Street. Don't matter. You're going to get it against our defense. That is just so frustrating, and it has to stop. And it's like the third game in a row of that. That's the biggest thing. You have anything to add to that? That third down defense stuff just drives me up a wall.
No, I don't have anything to add that you haven't covered. That's perfectly stated. I think you can't here, and here's the other problem. You can't blitz if you're going to tell the men to play off man. Like
No,
it's
has
pointless
to
to
come
do
up.
that. It's self-inflicted stupidity. Like you have to, if you're going to blitz, you have to get your man right on that guy's hip, be there, force him to go outside, force the quarterback to pull it back, and then look at and study and make the throw. You can't make it. And I know a lot of people. Some people know football acronym, but some people are kind of unaware of how it works. But when you leave him, your DB all alone like that, you're talking about all the receiver has to do is win that spot. Let's say easy
That's it.
read, bam, hit him. So you have to stop. Take that. You're taking that away. So they have to adjust that. Now to their credit, we're being critical of what we saw, but second halves they've changed that. They do differently. They do it a lot
They
more
do.
less. So they just have to do that more frequently and play FSU ball. FSU ball is press man in your face, on your nuts, not going to let you have anything. That's FSU defensive back play. It's
Yep.
not this off man crap that you're seeing. That's all that does is and I understand what the kind of principle is. You're trying to figure out what they're doing, but all it does is keeps your defense on the field longer. It has to take more snaps, and then later they get worn down. So they have to start taking away that stuff. And I'm not saying you jump routes and be aggressive. I'm just saying get on the hip of the guy, force the
Yeah.
quarterback to make tougher throws, and then if you're facing an athletic quarterback, get somebody to spy the guy so he's not taking off running on design plays. So those are kind of things. And with all this stuff said, they're still unbeaten because of how talented this team is because they have so many explosive players. Imagine how good they could be if they do some of the things differently or what we're talking about and adjust and clean it up. And if they do, they're going to be scary good, by the end of the year. But those are some things that I think what you pointed out and what I pointed out, I think those are clear and obvious things that probably the staff, I mean, this is a very sharp staff. They know, so I'm pretty sure they're already working on this stuff. So I'm sure they will clean this up as we go along in the season. But yeah, if they clean that stuff up, yeah, this is without a question a national championship contending team.
Yeah, just looking at some of the one particular play that stands out was when we gave up the TD at the end of the second quarter, end of the first half, to Shipley. It must have been an angle route or a slant, and I'm just sitting there and I'm like, okay, they don't have DeAndre Hopkins and Sammy Watkins and all these dudes that they're used to having. The T Higgins, they don't have these guys right now. They have Shipley. He's really good, and the I forget what the kid's name, Mustafa or Mafa. I think Mafa.
Maffa.
Yeah, Mafa. He's a good back too. Shipley's their guy. I mean, how are we giving up inside leverage to Shipley down here in goal to go? I mean, I was looking at that like, man. I mean, we really made Klubnik look good because he was tearing up those in-breaking routes all game, particularly on third down. And that was just maddening. I mean, we went down and we scored. We got aggressive on offense, and we went down there a minute 50 and put another 7 points on the board to finish the half. And then we, of course, tied it with the Fitzgerald field goal, 48 yards, banged it through. That was great. He's been under a lot of fire. I've been very critical of him, but he's been money this year so far. So salute, Fitzgerald. We need you, and you're coming through. But, man, I mean, these in-breaking routes were killing us all day. Clemson had several drives that if you're coming into the game, I didn't think they'd be able to do 7, 11, play drives for 70-something yards. I didn't think they'd be able to do that. I thought they were going to have to hit big plays. That was going into it. I was saying they were going to have to hit the big plays in order to really score on us. And they executed 3 touchdown drives where they took a bunch of time off the clock and really over 7 through 11 plays, they actually, moved the ball down the field. I didn't think that was going to happen. I said in the beginning that this was going to be a red zone defense game. I was disappointed with our red zone defense until the end. The last play, the last series I thought was decent. Clemson made a goofy call on that third down play, and we blew it up. Some great tackling on the perimeter, which improved as the game went on. And then Fentrell had great tight coverage on that in-breaking route. Go figure, in-breaking route for the game. He fixed it, but all game long, I just schematically, Fuller, having spent some time with him in the spring, I think people are really hard on him. He is a very smart man. He runs a very complicated and intricate defense that it takes the kids a while to pick up, but he is no dummy. He knows ball, and he's got a good scheme, but I do think we've got to adjust some things because I think what's happening is the pressure's not getting there quick enough to alleviate the space in the zone. I think some guys, are probably thinking more. I think our stunts aren't being timed right. I think guys are delayed blitzing maybe a little too long. They're not taking sharp enough angles, and it's leaving. Anytime you blitz, you're going to be exposed, right? I mean, you're taking people from space and rushing and using them to pressure, but there's a cavity behind wherever they're coming from. So good quarterbacks and coordinators can see that, and I think we're getting beat a little bit in the cat and mouse early, and then Fuller's picking it up. And one thing to think of, too, a lot of times the coordinators are up in the box. Fuller's on the field. So there's some things that maybe take a more time to adjust because he is on the field. He's motivating guys physically. He's touching him. He's talking to him. He's not up in a box. Where a lot of coordinators are up in the box. They're seeing things kind of from a bird's eye view. Not that that's an advantage or disadvantage. It's just different. And I will say Fuller's defense seems to be finishing games well, but we've got to work on the starts, and we have got to tighten up the coverage.
Yeah, and the other thing is you have one of the best front fours you're going to find in football.
Mm-hmm.
You don't blitz. You have to have faith in those guys because they're gaining their edge. Yeah, the sacks are down a little bit, but they're still gaining their edge. The pressure's there. Don't put more pressure on your team by blitzing guys because they're not going to get there, and you're putting more guys in weakness and space when you do that. So I think those are the things that we saw a lot less in the second half, and hopefully as the season goes on, we'll see it a lot less throughout the whole game. So I agree 100% with you. The start is where you you start setting a tone, and even if you're aggressive,
Mhm.
that's okay. Even if you get beat on a play, that's fine. At least we know, what they're doing, and as far as you're not putting your players in vulnerable positions. When you
Yeah.
blitz with those front four you have, you're putting them in vulnerable positions. Like against BC, it was the quarterback that was killing them with the runs because you
Mhm.
weren't spying somebody. Then the Clemson game was a little bit different where you talk about that Shipley play, you're getting Shipley, but you don't have another linebacker in the middle. If you have a guy in the middle, that play ain't happen. He's one on one with that guy, but if he throws it, that other linebacker is going to come over and pick the ball off. So you gotta have no situations where there's certain guys you can't put it one on one. Will Shipley is a no killer. He's been there since he's been there. He's killed that team. So you got to know who's going to be the guy. Now they did a better job of that in the second half, as I mentioned, but you got to adjust to that
Mhm.
but if you don't have stuff to clean up at this stage, I mean, I don't know what to say. I mean,
Yeah,
you would,
everybody does. You
yeah,
know,
yeah,
and looking at it, I mean, so that's kind of the negative stuff that we say. But and we say that, but we've talked about it offline. We're saying that because at this point now, this is not year two, year three. Norvell just wants to see some improvement. No, Mike has changed the culture, and as we get into the positivity segment, or as we finish up these next 5 minutes.
yeah.
Coach Mike Norvell has changed the culture of Florida State football. I texted him that on Saturday. I said, Coach, thank you. You changed the culture. The culture that he got when he arrived here was poor. Outgoing. The Fisher regime didn't leave it in the best shape, and obviously things didn't go right with Coach Taggart. And then the culture was bad. And Norvell's come in here and he's fixed it. It's a culture win when you go in there. And part of FSU culture is making a big play on the road. 81,500 fans there. We probably only had, the the least amount they'd allow us to have in there. And
Hmm.
we get a huge play from Deloach on the blitz. And I said we needed to not only get a big play defensively, we may need to get a score. And it's like that's part of culture is when you're in these grind out games that aren't pretty. It wasn't that sexy, relaxing fourth quarter like we had
Hmm.
in LSU where everything went our way. We got the turnover, we got this, we got that, big plays here and there, busted coverages and all that stuff. That's great. Are we 45-17? I don't count that 24 because that was BS. We had like four stringers in there. Are we 45-17 better than LSU? No, we're not. It all just went right. Right. So take that with a grain of salt. Now, when we play Clemson, now we're in a real battle. It's 17-24 at this point, and you've got to make a play. And part of the culture that you want to build when you're building it the right way is when the offense isn't clicking, the defense steps up and it makes a play like that. Defense has given up some points, but damn it, Coach Fuller gave us 7 points back because that was a tremendous play, tremendous
Yeah.
call, and they executed and they took it to the house. So that's part of the culture thing. So when we get into the positive part, I'm just going to end my piece with we finally beat Clemson. We've taken back, at least for now, control of the ACC. We're in the driver's seat. It's up to us. If we get upset and we come out there and we don't play a good ball game, somebody knocks us off, they knock us off. But right now we're in the driver's seat. Top 5 in the country in the driver's seat. A lot of doors are open now because we kicked that door in Memorial Stadium, down. And that is the positive portion. Cultures change. The Noles are serious. The Noles are the driver of the ACC conference right now. And sometimes it takes a gritty win on the road that's not sexy. It's very, very blue collar. And I think that's part of, I guess the beauty of it is that's what Mike Norvell has brought to the program. It's work. It's every day. It's climbing. It ain't always going to be sexy like the first game of the year was. Sometimes it's going to look like this.
Yeah, it's going to be a grind, and I think you put on some good points. And I watched the broadcast back over again, and you're listening to the announcers that are like, well, Dabo Swinney says they got to get turnovers in this game to have a chance. They ran everything the way they wanted to run as far as the flow of the game. They have long drives. They were continually getting first downs with the slip screens and the slip passes in the middle where there's one on one, and wouldn't jam it in there. But uh, with all that said, outside of some a few questionable calls that they did, but they did everything they wanted to do, and guess what? It still wasn't enough. And FSU played very average, compared to what they're capable of playing. And so it tells you a lot about what this team is. And two, told Rico this guys earlier tonight of like, when you play in Death Valley, you have to be mentally elite when it comes to what you're doing. And Mike has made this team mentally elite. They didn't blink an eyelash when they were down by 10 or they're down by 24-17. This team doesn't get phased by stuff. And that's the culture that Mike's built. And he also tells them, go make a play. Every play matters. Play hard every 60 minutes. We're going to play hard every play. Yeah, every play matters. And it shows. Showed last year with the LSU kick block. It showed this year with how they turned that game around against LSU, and then this game, Clemson. You look like things are teetering towards. Hey, man, we're going to probably lose this game. They're about to go up 10 or 14. Deloach makes a play. It's a 14-point swing. Bam, you're tied again. You're back to the grind, and you just keep grinding, keep working. You get a second chance with a overtime, and then they put them away, and that's what great teams do. So this team is extremely talented. Don't all the bitching we're talking about, don't take that as like we don't feel like this team is one of the best teams in the country. We're just showing you the things that if they clean this stuff up, guys, they're going to be scary good of how efficient FSU can be on both sides of that ball. I think we've already seen what the special teams have done. Ryan's been phenomenal. Alex has been phenomenal punting the ball. Alex nailed one down to the 1 yard line on one punt. So I think they're in the Clemson game. But I think overall, there's places that are very exciting what FSU's doing, but there's places they can get better. They should have a lot of positivity because you got to be so mentally set in your mind and set physically and talent wise in clutch moments to go there and win at a place like Death Valley. So this is a massive culture changing win for Mike
Mm-hmm.
Norvell. There's no question. You should be through the roof or through the moon or whatever the saying is. I don't care. Like you should be excited as I don't know what. That's how massive this win was for FSU to get it. I don't care what Clemson's record is. I saw a team in 1999 that won the national championship for FSU, and they had to struggle to go to a 17-14 win when we had that was the most talented team I've ever seen FSU have, and they nearly lost to Clemson that night in the Bowden Bowl. So never take for granted when you play at a rival's place or a hostile environment. What they did was like program changing. It was a moment because Rico always tells me this: play to the standard. What we are at FSU, play to standard. It
Yep.
met the standard of what FSU is, and they're starting to get there. They're not at that level where it's consistency over and all, just dominating people, but it's at a standard where they're making big plays and they're winning big games, and that's where the standard is right now. But they're still growing, and I think it's appropriate tagline that Mike uses is keep climbing. Yeah, I think that's
Yep.
appropriate for this team in this program. And man, I'm so jacked up of where this program is going because of just how much growth we've seen from the first year Mike got here to now. It's just it's amazing when you look back how far ago we are from them losing embarrassing loss to Jacksonville State to where we are now that you're talking about
Yeah.
them beating Clemson in Clemson,
Mm-hmm.
beating LSU 2 years in a row. That's what FSU is known for: beating SEC teams, beating top teams on the road, playing
Yep.
anywhere. They don't care. And so now they're getting back to the standard, and now it's an exciting time, guys. I mean, you should be really pumped.
Yeah, and I'll just leave you with this before we cut it off here. Florida State came into this season having to play the LSU football Tigers and the Clemson Tigers away from Doak Campbell Stadium in the first month. Also had a conference road game in Boston College, which was their red bandana game, which, if you don't know, that is the game that they dedicate to a Boston College student affiliate that sacrificed, and it's a big deal for them. And we've come out of that 4-game deal 4-0. And a lot of writers did not think that would happen. They thought that we would drop one of these two. And they thought that we would have to play Clemson twice. And they thought that based on the premise that Clemson would beat us the first go round and we would have to run the table to get back to them.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's not happening. Clemson's got 2 conference losses. This is a huge gatekeeper game, glass ceiling game, call it what you will. The Noles are 4-0 coming off of, 4 pretty decently tough games, 2 in particular, playing Clemson and LSU away from Tallahassee. So you have to love it. The standard it is back on par with what it should be. to winning big games no matter who's in front of you, and it's going for national titles. Now you have to take that in increments. First increment's ACC title. This game is what opened the door for that. And that's going to be the first thing that's on the chop block. State title, ACC title, national title. That's how it works. Now, the third one, I mean, there's a lot of good football teams. We're just one of them. We're by no means a favorite, but we're in the mix. And so that's where I'll leave us. We've got a nice break in the schedule, Mike. We've got a bye week. We can get healthy. Hopefully we can get Akeem Dent back. I think that may fix a lot of the issues on the back end. I think Akeem Dent appreciation, he may need his own video because he's been missed last couple of weeks. But when we come back, I'll be in Tallahassee with you. We've got Virginia Tech on the 7th. It's going to be a very fun time, I think, as long as we come to play. And then, we're going to get into the meat of this conference schedule after that. So that's where we're at, guys. It was a very stressful but enjoyable victory.
That's putting it mildly.
Yeah, 31-24. Once it got to overtime, it felt like we were going to win. We did win. Keon Coleman with a tremendous play. Jordan with a great ball. Defense with a great stand. Mike Norvell with a fist pump at the end. Culture's changed. We're moving on, 4-0. We've got a bye week. We're going to sit back and watch the carnage this Saturday. Mike and Rico signing off. We're going to see you again in a week. Go Noles.